'Tis the season for the cheesy, romantic Christmas movie.
Yes.
Have you seen the one with Lindsey Lohan on Netflix? If you haven't seen it yet, that one ticks all the boxes. You'll know what I'm talking about. And because I'm inspired by this, I'm going to be sharing with you the astrology of December 2022 in the plot of a cheesy, romantic Christmas movie. Set the stage. Venus is one of our lead characters. Venus has been traveling through Sagittarius, this journey to search for universal answers, striving to understand something relevant for their personal growth. And maybe, just maybe, because this is not a predictable plot at all, Venus may find themselves falling in love by the end of December with someone they never considered in that way before. Act 1. Just friends, December 1st through 12th. The month of December starts off with an opposition of Venus and Mars. Now, this is perfecting on December 1st, and it's going to flavor a little bit of time. But Venus and Mars are the most well-known, most archetypical lovers of the zodiac. Mars is coming in from Gemini in this retrograde. Mars is backtracking. Mars is spiraling. Mars is in an existential crisis. Mars is getting beat up, boom, 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 by all these oppositions, squared up by Neptune. Mars is trying to decide if Mars should just grow out their hair into a man bun and, ditch out and just, not even be around anymore at all, searching for the truth, but not knowing what's the truth. Mars is in a place. Mars is really in a place. And while Mars is getting that square from the conflicting fog and Neptune, Venus is also getting that square, but from the opposite pole. So Venus is completely disillusioned by her typical lover of Mars and just is like, ugh. And she's wondering what she even saw in Mars in the first place. She needs a break from Mars. And for some of us, this energy may also be coming through in our relationships. This might be some energy of emotional discord. I'm gonna tear all my hair out. You may possibly have feelings of disillusion with something you thought was one thing, but now you're starting to see it in a different way. It could be a relationship or an opportunity or a job or an experience and wonder, well, is that really even real? Like, what's the truth around that? Mars and Venus are as far away from each other as they can possibly be in their cycle. They're completely on the opposite ends of the circle. And for some of us, it might be coming through in how we feel about our life path, our passion, our traction. What do we love? What do we want to do? What is the action? What is the passion behind our action? And that's coming to some sort of contention, fighting. So annoying. Oh my God. But also just petty arguments, something that gets blown out of proportion. And the best thing to do if that happens, trust me, it happens. This conflicting energy is very ripe right now. It's ripe for fighting, and there's no winner. Like, you don't get anything if you win the fight. It's just gonna suck. And it might be better to just agree to disagree. Take some space, process your situation, need a break, and take a little time for yourself if you need to. Don't make any rash or cutting statements that you're gonna regret or burn any bridges. Mars and Venus, they need a break. And that brings us to our protagonist, Venus, turning away from Mars, her typical lover, to look somewhere else for what she needs. Cut to Mercury, our other leading character in the month of December. Mercury is all over the place in December. And Mercury in our romantic Christmas movie plot is Venus's best friend. Mercury's also searching for something, but not really sure what Mercury is searching for, because in Sagittarius, Mercury is in exile. It's really hard for Mercury to pin down something rational, something detailed. It's such broad energy in Sagittarius. So Mercury and Venus go out for drinks, and they're both complaining about their situation, and they decide they're gonna go on a dating app. They're both going to go on a dating app, and they're basically going to be taking turns dating the same exact partners throughout the month of December. On December 2nd, Mercury links up or hooks up with Neptune on a date, but this is a square aspect. Mercury square Neptune, and the open, peaceful vibe of Neptune seemed really cool for Mercury at first, but Mercury needs this rational thought, this rational communication, and it's leading them to have friction. Neptune doesn't want to have those conversations that Mercury wants to have, and Mercury doesn't want to have the conversations Neptune wants to have. How does it play out for us? This energy Maybe one that leads us to make silly mistakes, like losing our keys or getting sucked into a cheesy Christmas movie marathon and forgetting there are cookies in the oven and they burn, or missing an appointment that you've had on the books for a long time. But with this energy, there's a tendency for like a confusion, a mental confusion. Anything with Neptune in a square or an opposition or any of the challenging aspects for Neptune, it just brings that side of Neptune out of confusion, disillusion, like what's going on, escapism. And this energy may lead to some mental confusion, uncertainty, or doubt. So when you engage with the world, just be more mindful of what's real and what's not real, asking yourself what's real and what's not real, leaning into your intuition, trusting your gut, because your gut knows what's right, even when your mind is confused. Even when the evidence before you is confusing, trust your intuition. So it was a really bad date for Mercury. On December 4th, it's Venus's turn to go on a date with Neptune. And Venus is attracted to Neptune's profile because Neptune has this sensitive nature, very spiritual ideals. But just like Mercury, this date is in a square aspect. It's Venus square Neptune, and it's one of friction and conflict. And right away, Venus feels very disappointed in her date and disillusioned by Neptune and wants to leave the date right away. And so for us, this energy may show up like feeling disillusioned. It's a next level of the way Mercury felt. It's very similar. It's a disillusion on another level where we may be putting someone or something or some experience up on a pedestal, having a lot of expectations and feeling disappointed with the mundane aspects of life and love. Wanting something more spiritual in our friends and our family. So this friction, the square aspect, is not bad. It's a wake-up call, basically. It's good for us to reassess our own tendencies towards over-dependence on others, wanting someone else to do something so we feel good and satisfied. So that wasn't a very good date for Venus either. Venus and Mercury both. But they learn a lot. They learn a lot from these dates. We get to December 6th, and on December 6th, Mercury packs up, says goodbye to Venus. Mercury has an opportunity to move into a new place in the land of Capricorn, which is a good place for Mercury. It's much more rational, much more disciplined. It's ruled by Saturn. It's the land of cardinal earth practical power. And that same day, Mercury goes on another date with mighty Jupiter, which is coming from Pisces land. And I don't have to tell you how incompatible that date was, do I? It was totally incompatible. Yikes. On December 6th, Mercury squares Jupiter. It's conflict. Again, all these squares are conflict. It's friction. It's energy between these two that it's just, not seeing eye to eye, the rational versus the philosophical. What does that mean for us? How is it going to come through for you? This may be coming through in an experience in your life where you have to bite your tongue, or again, not argue, or maybe stifle your yawn when you're subjected to an overblown windbag, blah, 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 blah. Or someone you find arrogant and boastful and just don't really want to listen to them or talk to them anymore. Someone may be trying to oversell you on something. And if you get that feeling in your stomach that it's too good to be true, you need to listen to your intuition. Mercury is leaning heavily on intuition in the month of December, and it's trying to get us out of this foggy area, BS, and proactively, knowing this energy may come through, it's a good moment to not be too judgmental on the windbag. Sometimes you just gotta let people talk, let them get it out, and then move on. On December 7th and 8th, we pan our camera back to Venus's ex-lover Mars. Mars is still confused by Neptune. Mars is still retrograde. But now, Mars is being faced off by the Sun. Mars-Sun opposition. And the Sun is like, what the heck's going on with you, Mars? You've really been sucking lately. And Mars, you really suck, man. This is an intervention, but it's an intervention, but it's not a kind one. Not really understanding or comprehending what is going on with Mars. Why isn't this sentinel of our solar system, this warrior of the zodiac, acting like themselves? What is wrong with you? The Sun gives Mars this verbal lashing and then sneers as Mars stands there anguished and insecure about their decision to grow their hair out into a man bun. It's so confusing. But then on the same day, Mars gets a beautiful backup and the moon comes in and joins in a conjunction with Mars. The moon soothes the warrior. The moon tells Mars that the hair looks good. Brings Mars a bowl of the best soup Mars has ever had, and Mars really did need it. Mars needs this moon. And at the very same time, we get a full moon. This is the last full moon of 2022. It's the full moon in Gemini. Mars conjoin the moon, and that's going to bring us a feeling of inner strength and faith in our ability to stand up for ourselves, to stand strong in our decisions. The opinions of others get so much value from us, but the true valuable opinion is the value that you give to your own self, your own opinion on your own self, but not in a ruthless or petty way, in a natural and loving way. The moon is there. It's shedding light on this Mars retrograde story that is so intense and so backwards. Back to our plot. Meanwhile, Mercury is over living in Capricorn, away from Venus, kind of misses Venus. Venus also starts to miss Mercury, her close companion, her confidant in December. She has another date to go on, so Venus goes on her next date with the ruler of her current residence, Jupiter, on December 9th. This is a square. Venus square Jupiter. Lots of squares coming through this month in December. This is not as bad of a date as Mercury had with Jupiter. Not so bad, because these two, Venus and Jupiter, share a love of shopping and rich living and extravagance and 12-course dinners with a huge serving of triple layer cake between each course. They both are digging that. They both like it. The truth is that maybe it's fun at first, but then that overspending, overindulgence, it starts to wear on the relationship, and there's not a lot of substance behind it. It's very material. So for some of us, this may come through as overspending, overindulging, overdoing it in general. Someone may be acting overly sweet with you and is over the top. It just feels inauthentic, you know? Or possibly you feel like you have to put on this show, this act, where you have to drink this or eat that. People are putting food in your face. You might eat too much, drink too much. It's important to think about moderation during this time. And you can indulge yourself, but moderately. Do your shopping, but place some limits. Place some limits on your eating and just say, okay, I can have this, but I'm gonna stop at this point. Just as an insurance plan so it doesn't get too out of hand, because you and I both know paying for those things later is no fun at all. Back to our Christmas movie. Venus has hung over the next day after her date with Jupiter. She's looking at her Christmas tree and it's like fuzzy. She just can't. All she can think about is Mercury and that he's gone. What is Mercury doing right now? And what should Venus do? Follow Mercury, of course. Venus decides to travel into the land of Capricorn, and Venus does, ingressing into Capricorn on December 10th, 2022. Does Venus have feelings for Mercury that are more than just platonic? And how does Mercury feel when Venus shows up? Mercury has just gotten themselves clear of the Sagittarius overabundance that it was struggling in, settled into a new life in Capricorn land, and has this kind of weird roommate named Pluto who's got some issues. If you stayed with me this far, thank you. I like you just the way you are, and I will talk to you next time with the conclusion of our Venus-Mercury love story.